on this, you'll see this error. But what I see IT guys do every single day, this is what I have to correct. Every single one of them, this. They go, hey, all right, you want to upgrade your system? Pretend this one is a D drive. Pretend I plugged in an external hard drive. And here's my C drive. They do this, Control A. And then they go right click, copy. And then they go paste it onto the other drive. Now here's my question. When I get to Snow Cowboys directory, what will it say? What is the error it will give me?
Do not have permissions. It won't open it for you, right? Maybe.
You lose the right.
I'm going by.
You lose the right.
And try to open it.
It's got to open it.
Okay. Any other options?
Maybe like.
Or it won't show up. Depending.
No, I think it'll show up.
And when you say it won't show up, what do you mean?
There'll be stuff that's just missing. I mean, it depends on the files in the directory.
So technically that's correct. There will be stuff that will be missing and it will not be there. If you do not, here's the thing. It will not display an error at all.
Yeah.
No error. You will not know at all you didn't have it.
This is the Geek Squad method.
Right, exactly.
There's clients who are like,
Yep.
where's my PST file?
Right.
Geek Squad rescued my data.
Yep.
And there's nothing there because
Yep.
you didn't have permission to do it.
Geek Squad comes over to somebody's house and they say, I want to upgrade my hard drive. They do this. They Control A, they copy, and here's the problem. There's a Susie and there's a Bob. Bob's files are protected. She's logged in as Susie in some way, so Susie's files go because they'll get copied. It'll get to Bob's directory, and Bob's directory she doesn't have access to, and the system knows she doesn't have access to it. She's not even supposed to know Bob exists. So the system will ignore it. Ignores it 100%. Doesn't say a single thing to you at all. Just moves right along and keeps on copying the next thing it can. Not only for this, the other things that you're missing are system volume information, which is all the backup, the reparse stuff, the shadow copies, drivers, all the stuff that's been parsed out. Trash, the recycle bin. All the items in the recycle bin that do not belong to you, you do not have security for, and so therefore it will not touch them at all.
You still have the folder though, you just can't see anything in it, right?
Well, on the case of Bob, I don't even think it even copies the folder over. Nope. It completely ignores it. Yep.
So if you use a native backup,
If I use what?
if you back it up, like use a native backup and use like reinstall, wait till you get everything back the way it is.
I believe you will, actually. If you use NT backup, you will get a backup and restore. I believe you will be fine if you use NT backup because it uses the MFT entries, not security. So I believe you actually are correct. I believe. It's been a long time since I've used NT backup to try to do anything because I consider it to be a loser. That's the best way to put it. Like all the stuff that doesn't work, once it doesn't work once, I'm like, I'm not using this anymore, I'm done. And I don't even try again after that. Because whatever the failure is, like, have you ever used the migration wizard? It sucks. It's terrible, right? Like, once you know that you missed stuff and it doesn't work, you don't use it again. It's easier for you to just copy your files and figure it out yourself than it is to use their... You ever use the migration wizard on a Mac?
Yep.
And what do you think about it? It's awesome. On a Mac, the migration wizard is the most awesome thing that has ever been invented because you can actually take a completely separate external hard drive that has your profile on it. It will not only recreate your folders and your structure, it'll put your icons back where they were on the desktop.
Yep.
Which the migration wizard on Windows would never do.
So on the past little thing that happens that
Yep.
their files are disappeared, how do you fix that without the drive? Can you get it? If like, let's say you don't have the drive?
You got to have the original drive before they reformatted it, reinstalled, and put Windows back on.
There's no way to get it then. You just-
Right.
just-
Those guys mess it up every day, and then it's sent to me for recovery. And the only chance I have is that they discovered it before they started installing Office.
Right.
Right? Because they install a huge 10 gig version of Office, and then they've overwritten all the data. And that's the problem, is that you cannot get it back if they do this. Now, this is why I'm bringing this up as a huge problem, because if you go do a recovery and the recovery doesn't belong to you and it wasn't on your network and it wasn't part of your domain, you plug it into your machine and you use Explorer to access it, think of Explorer as a rootkit. You know what a rootkit is? Basically, it's going to do its own thing and it's not going to display to you what you think it is doing. And so therefore it is hiding the content from you. There's a lot of things. Watch this. Right click, properties. Everybody I know does this. When they're done, they're going to wait for this to say, how much disk space am I using? This is a lie. This is completely a lie. It's absolutely incorrect. 100% incorrect. This is completely a waste of your time. Unless you're only looking for one folder, which you have access to, this is wrong. Because Bob's folder, or Snow Cowboy's folder, has 10 gigs in it. Guess what it's not going to count? Snow Cowboy's 10 gigs. So yeah, when you're done copying and you compare your drive that Geek Squad says, but I looked at it and it said I had 170 gigs. And when I was done copying it, I had 170 gigs. Yeah, because you had the same stuff you had access to. What you don't have is the 10 gigs that belong to Snow Cowboy. You didn't have it, you can't see it, you can't touch the files. This is actually crawling through MFT and directory structures that you have access to using the ability to look at the security descriptor to allow you to have access to it. That is wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong. You want to know how much space is on this disk? You really want to know? Because it's not that. It's this. What did that do different?
That graph from MFT?
Not MFT. Which one tells me space? Nope. You guys should know it. We've already done it. The bitmap. The bitmap is straight up a flag of allocated and unallocated space. Now this is not the deleted files that are not able to be carved, but it is the deleted files that are still part of the MFT entries. So the deleted files with a flag, that is allocated versus unallocated space. So my use space is 187, not 170. That is instantaneous and it's correct. And that's a bitmap. Dollar bitmap. That's what it read. And those are important factors to know. And these are things people use Windows every day don't have a clue. They have no idea that this is what's going on. You're reading dollar bitmap. The other one is reading all the MFT entries only with security. So when you're actually down here, you know, some of the stuff that you don't have access to, which you can't even see in the directory structure here, is system volume information, the trash folder. It's not even in the list. There, these are the deleted ones. There's system volume information. And inside volume information, this is what would happen, is it would just abort this and you won't get those copies at all. But if I use, here's the amazing thing, watch this, on the same system, let's just say I use RStudio. RStudio adds a function that I do not have to scan the hard drive or do anything. I open existing files. When I do this, this will read $MFT and only $MFT. So I do that, and you see it counting the entries. It's actually going through all the $MFT entries, reading the content, and guess what I will have access to? I can read everything at this point because I'm only talking to $MFT. Even though, as a user on this machine, I do not have rights to the other folders. It cannot prevent me from modifying MFT entries because if it does, it's like write blocking the system. And you can't live on a system that's write blocked. Yeah.
Maybe I'll be doing on like let's say Windows 7, if you're taking on another machine, you're plugging in somebody else's drive, it'll give you an option if you do it first, like where you can actually bypass the permissions, but on 7 if it's something early.
Tank ownership?
Yeah, obtain ownership.
Yeah.
How effective is that?
It's not very effective, but the reason I say it's not is because usually you have to run it multiple times, right? So you run take ownership, and it will error out because you don't have ownership to take ownership of. So some folders, not all of them, some of them will work, and then the others will say, okay, I can't do this, and you have to say skip or continue, right?
You can see them, but what's the problem then?
Because you don't have ownership to take ownership because you don't have the previous ownership. But after you do it once, it will assign ownership to the other root ones. As you crawl through it, you'll notice if you do it again, the second time it'll have less of the errors, and then the third time it'll finally work. Like it'll have all of them, right? So it crawls through MFT and reassigns you the RID and the SID number associated with your user for the ones you're trying to take ownership of if you have administrative properties. How long does that take? You ever done it on a server?
No, on a server. But on regular when I'm just trying to get people's data.
Yeah. How long did it take?
You can see and it's not corrupted. It's a good thing. Like, I don't know, 10 minutes.
Yeah?
I mean.
How long does this take? Stop it.
No, I guess.
I get your point. I know, I'm just saying.
That's so effective though, if I had to move fast.
You have to do it a couple of times. I don't know if that's move fast. Does that move fast?
No.
But yes, it will work, but you have to take ownership sometimes 2 or 3 times. You're also modifying the drive. But I understand your point, but it's still only showing you. You're still restricted. You're just not getting everything again. Just so you understand, you're not getting access to the trash bin. You're not getting access to, like, you have to do a number of things. But effectively, that's what's happening is you're changing the permission setting in the dollar descriptor to yours.
Well, mainly for the user's file, that's all I'm getting is like the documents and like the pictures. I don't care about all the other stuff usually when they just want my pictures back.
I understand your point.
Does it work? I mean,
yeah, it works. If you change ownership, then the ownership, you're just changing the security descriptor file. That's all you're changing.
So I'm giving them back effective stuff that will work.
Yeah.
I just want to.
Right. Yeah. No,
Here. You know.
It works. It does work, but take ownership is not the most effective method of doing that. But it doesn't take up more disk space. So in other words, if you did this way, you have to copy it off someplace and then restore it. So I get access, but without any restrictions. But take ownership will not change the disk space. It'll just change the security descriptor file. It doesn't change clusters or anything else. Okay?
So it's kind of like a dirty method. It can be somewhat effective when you don't get really important stuff.
No, I agree. It is effective and it can work, but it does require, changes from that standpoint. And that will show up as 0. Just make sure, though, if you're going to use Explorer to do things, just understand you have limits. You're not seeing everything that's happening on. Not only that, like as an example, one of the other things on this. Let's say, do I have trash? Where's my recycle bin? There it is. This is a lie, right? You know this is completely a lie. This is not correct information. Now I've got files. These are files I've deleted, files I've had on the system. I deleted and did whatever. Under what condition do you have an original location in the MFT entries? You don't. It doesn't exist. Under what condition do you have a date deleted in MFT? You do not have a date deleted in MFT entries. You have 4 dates and times for the primary file system, and you have 4 dates and times for file names. Most people don't know this, but you actually have file names that have a date and time for the file name. And if they don't match, somebody fooled with you. Somebody modified the system and tricked, either by using touch or some other system, they can modify the file name separately from the file system. I'll show it in a minute because I know you don't understand what I just said.
They use the Linux command, right? Touch.
You can use touch, but you can do it another way. I can do it in DOS. I've actually been able to accomplish it, and no one knows that I stole data and a command and didn't modify the date and time, but it did modify the file name, and it does mark it. And there is if you've seen FTK version 4 added a column that's red for file name and dates and times, and it will highlight red if the two don't match, and that was my doing. So a developer came to my office and I had to show him how it worked because he didn't understand the piece of the file system, and they went back and added it because it shows somebody played with your system without you knowing it. So, but anyway, these things don't exist. These things, they're not real. So these things, let me show you where they really come from. I think it's here. That's what they really are. Those are the real items that exist because the trash bin doesn't keep track of the original files. Inside this, there's a hidden file, and you can't see it here. There's a hidden file, and the hidden file is called System Information. Hang on. Which is the same thing as a rootkit, basically, again. It's basically changing what you're seeing and not showing you what the file system really has. And so when you're in it, right here, so this is info2 right here is a binary file. And if you look at the binary file, this is where the data is coming from. So this is the original folder In here is the drive letters. So this is sequence number 1. This is the drive letter it came from. It counts in binary. A is 00, B is 01, C is 02. So in binary, 02 is right there. This is your date and time right here. So there is content that goes with this that you can then use an interpreter and figure it out. Here it is. So when it was deleted, whatever happened to it and occurred. And then this is Unicode right here for where it was deleted from. And then there's another piece of the content. But this is how you break all that down into different things. So you could gradually figure out whatever single item is. There is a breakdown for it. It was written by a guy named Haley, and there's a document that will explain every single item in this list. But then this changes in Windows Vista and Windows 7 and 8 and 10. And they separate the file. This is one file that tracks everything in the recycle bin. When this file gets full, it starts to delete content. So you have a percentage by which this size can't grow. And so there's also one other really weird thing. When you clear this file, the file itself, you can't see it here, but you can see it in forensics tools. There's slack space after this file. After you delete content, the slack space for the same file will be red in most of the displays, and that content shows all the files that previously existed after the trash was empty. So you can empty the trash and then come back and actually find this out. It's actually in the book. This actually was like a real lab. It's kind of not helpful here, but all right, let's get back to this so that we can do a lab. Because I can go on.
Maybe you know the answer.
Yeah.
Probably. Back to where I was talking about with the dirty method. I seem to remember a while back somebody calling and saying like a certain thing wasn't working and it had to apply to a program they had that was like networking. So like if I moved it over and changed the permissions, would that maybe been what happened? You know, I'll tell you like this, it utilized something from the network, but because it identified the new file, I'm sure that's been changed, right? Is it possible? I was just saying maybe because maybe I probably did something wrong.
The problem for me is that your question is only part of a question. There's a piece missing that I can't tell from your information.
It was something they were using, I forget, it's like a financial program that would go out to the internet and make a request and give them back some information. But like the data we got back from them, I did that at that point in time, and gave her back her data on the user file. But then ever since then, I think she was having some problems using those files, you know, when she was using this program. I forget what it was, but that's how it worked, I think. It would just essentially go out to a database.
Yeah. I don't know from you. I need to know more information than what you have here. If you want to talk about it later today, we can talk about it. I need to know more than what you just said. Okay. To be able to tell you, but it's possible it's a permission problem. If you have a permission problem, but it doesn't sound likely because she had ownership of the item. So I don't know. I'd have to look at it and tell you, but we could probably figure it out. We can probably figure out what it is or recreate it. This is a tool called Disk Explorer. We're going to look at this in a minute. Disk Explorer for NTFS actually will let you crawl through the file system without spending any tremendous amount of money. And you can actually see all of these settings and all of these items that we're talking about in the entries. MFT entries, at least up until XP, and you formatted your drive, 12.5% was reserved. Now this is why your data recovery works. In your file, here's the best way for me to tell you, that's the shortest way without spending 8 hours. Why a recovery even works. Oh my God, Yahoo. I have got to change this later. All right, here's a picture. All right, you guys remember defrag? You used to be able to do this. It was really cool looking, had some really neat stuff, and nobody does this anymore. But that was the reason we all use Norton utilities, right? So we could run this on the screen, and it was mesmerizing. So here's the thing. Outside edge of the disk is the fastest location on your disk. A lot of people didn't even realize this is actually reality. That the items that were sitting here on the disk were associated with their LBA numbers, and then they counted in. When they defragged, they moved from the inside to the outside because the outside edge was faster. So it was moving this data to here. You guys remember this, right? So here's the thing. There's a spot on the disk when you format it. You see this gray one right here? I can't tell what that says. You see this gray one right here? I'm going to assume this is the beginning of the $MFT. Every pair of sectors all the way around this ring was reserved for your MFT entries. And it was at a specific location for a specific size, 12.5% of your disk. So when you erase your hard drive, let's reformat our hard drive. It starts all over. The blue stuff's gone, the tables are gone. What happens is when it reinitializes the MFT entry, it doesn't rewrite the MFT entries. It only rewrites the MFT entries as you add them. So the first set of them is the beginning of the drive, which is I wrote the Windows directory, I wrote the system directory, so those are all duplicates of the same one. So they're overwriting what you already had. So what? We don't care. What we care about is over here is program files. When we got the program files, these were different. This is the My Documents files. So as they're being written, they're in their position. So when you erase a drive and you reformat it, it only is refilling the component that's actually already in use. So if you don't keep writing more data, these still exist on the hard drive. So we go and we talk to these and then recover the data because the data is still sitting out here in those clusters. Only this data is being overwritten in the beginning as it's going. It fills in the holes from the beginning with large files. Everybody understand what I mean? That's why this works at all. It's because it has that reserved space. Now Windows has changed in Windows 8 and Windows 10 the size. You could actually change the size before, but they changed it and it's much smaller than it used to be. But the reserved items that are still there still work. So whatever it is, it grows as it goes. So we'll start talking about those. We already talked about file size limits, 4 gig, 2 gig on 16s, check disk. Let me show you what check disk actually does when you are comparing a disk. Also, let me tell you the stats for reformatting the drive. If you reformat XP over XP, you only lose between 30 and 35 files if you haven't installed all the updates or all the other software and items that you can install. If you just reformatted it, reinstalled XP, you only lose about 30 to 35 files. If you install over XP with Vista, you lose 230. If you install Windows 7 over Vista/XP, you lose around 240 files. So that's about all you're going to lose in those realms if you're reinstalling over the others. If you install HPFS over NTFS, you probably won't lose anything significant at all as long as you stop right there. Because as soon as you install something else, that space is going to be consumed because it's consuming the beginning of the system disk and the system files, which you don't care about. You care about the rest of the MFT entries, and as long as they don't get overwritten, it's usable. But it does create a patch partition and a couple of other partitions at the beginning of the disk when you install Mac OS. So there is a slight chance that you're going to overwrite one of the partition structures. But when you select your recovery, you have to select your recovery based on NTFS. So the way you would do that, if you reformatted your disk and you had to do something specific, and we're going to use this tool in just a minute, but let's just say I started up our studios and I have a hard drive that was formatted NTFS, but it was overwritten by HFS, right? A Mac overwrote it. You guys okay with this concept? I'm going to scan the hard drive, which would be normal. Most tools are going to scan, carve, and rebuild. And I'm going to show you one thing. If I go and I say scan, I have a choice when I go to scan. These are the file systems it's going to look for. Well, it is HFS right now, but I don't want HFS. So if I left HFS intact, it's going to find an HFS. It's going to parse all of these. What I want is NTFS. So if I unchecked all the possible ones and I left NTFS as the only choice, then I don't want it to carve. I only want it to look for records. So what I want to do is clear everything. This is all the file types. It's looking for JPEGs. It's looking for other content. I'm going to try to clear that table because I do not want it to carve files. I want it to find $MFT records. Understand what I mean? So I'm telling it NTFS and I'm telling it no records. Now when I hit scan, what's going to happen is it's only going to parse MFT records as it's building it across the drive. and you'll actually see them as they're going here. It'll find the sectors, find the directory. So even if there's HFS, it's going to skip them. It's not going to look at them. They're not going to be recreated on the disk. I have to trick it into just saying, I only want what I'm telling you I want. And NTFS, the sectors for NTFS are not going to be entirely over the whole disk, right? It's reserved in a space at the beginning of the disk, and it's 12.5%. It'll be smaller than that on 8 and 10. So it'll be smaller than 12.5% because the drives are bigger, so they don't want to use 12.5%. Understand what I mean? So if I stopped it here, would I have all the records? I'd have all the records because they're not going to be at 50% of the drive. They're only going to be there if I had another partition. So I might need to know how many partitions I have, but if I stop it at a third right here, I have gotten all of the NTFS records. I don't have to wait for the entire process to finish. I don't have to waste that time. Do you guys understand what I mean? So at some point in time, when I'm done with this, and it's gotten all the NTFS records, it's just going to keep reading blue blocks. It's not going to keep adding NTFS records. Now, I know I got like 11,000 NTFS records on here, but that's physically what it's looking for at this point. And I could hit stop at any time, and you'll notice it actually found a recognized partition structure. Now, if I let it go further, it'll find more of the records, but that's entirely my point, is that I actually would have records that I've carved, and there won't be 10,000. There's going to be shorter. Okay? You guys understand what I'm saying? Now, ironically, this is an image of an image on my hard drive. So, right, I have data recovery images on the hard drive. But that's my point. This is actually one image of one device that's on my hard drive that I parsed MFT entries for. Are you guys understanding what I'm getting at here? I'm not carving. I'm not trying to fix that. I'm trying to find dollar MFTs. Now, let me show you what MFT entries really look like. Everybody excited here? Do you guys want to take a minute break here? Let's take a minute break while I get ready for the next section here.
Scott,
Yes?
these days, nobody really gets a Windows disk with their computer unless they build it themselves. Like they buy a laptop off the shelf. They're going to have that recovery partition. And so that thing's going to have both the OS and like all of their applications and everything the computer came with. So then you would lose considerably more data if you were to image that.
I don't think you lose considerably more data.
If there's a lot, if it came with Office and all that stuff as part of the restore image.
You mean if they cared about those items?
No, what I'm saying is I've had people call me before and say, I called HP. They told me my computer wasn't booting. They told me to recover from the recovery partition. I asked them if it would make me lose all my data, and they told me no, go ahead.
Yes, right. That is bad. Because,
that is bad, right?
Right, yes. The reason is because those are images.
Exactly.
Those aren't just a reinstall.
Right.
Those aren't.
It's actually doing an image from that hidden partition.
Right. Those are block restores.
Yeah. That's a bummer.
Yeah, it is. That's an overwrite. You actually overwrote everything.
Right.
With those recovery partitions. Yes. Those are physical restores.
Then you're kind of screwed. Unless somebody stopped it in the middle of it. I had a client once stop it in the middle of it.
Yeah, then you can carve out the remainder.
That's kind of all I was.
But if they use the recovery thing, then no, they're not going to.
And of course, at that point, when you're carving, you'll get the person's porn back faster than you will their Quicken file, is what I learned.
No, you're right. You'll get that back because they delete their porn often, and then there it is sitting out there.
Yeah.
Is RStudio a download license or a?
No, it's just a software license, and to date, at least so far, I haven't had it do an activation. I think the technician license does activation, but I don't think that it does an online activation. I think I just enter in the key, and it just works. So you do have, and there's a key that goes right here. I actually have the license. These are already licensed, but they don't show you the license when you're in it.
Right.
But yeah, so
Technician add that.
mainly it has the license is different so that you can be like an awesome dude and not have to worry about a single user license. And then there really is no other real functionality. There's very minor functionality, and they have it in the list online. But it can connect to a deep spar. It has all the agents so that you can do the network agents. But there's no real functionality difference. There was like 1 or 2 items, but I don't recall. They weren't very important.
For local discs, or if you're only working on.
No, it was. It's
Oh, okay, it's right on the website. Okay, I can read that.
yeah.
So 899 is the technician. Or
So yeah, it's if I get a huge break, I can sell this for like $500. So
technician.
yeah,
What is the regular? Is it?
the regular one's like $79. Yeah, the regular single version's like $79, and I can get a huge break on this and sell it for like $500. So if you want that and you don't want to pay $8.99, call me and I'll give you a good deal for it. But when they say things like this just meant I can talk to a deep spar. These are the agents where you can do and you can do that with the network license too. So you don't even need that. The forensics mode says it creates a report. I really haven't looked at the report and tried to figure out whether or not, that's always a lie anyway, right? Like everybody writes a... Yeah, but I also write them by hand most of the time. I'm still cut and paste and writing by hand because I don't like anybody's. So you can buy a Mac OS version that's very easy in the first place. So I don't know that they're actually giving you the Mac running version, but all it is a port. It's really better on the Windows system than it is on the Mac. But it does run on a Mac. It's a port though. And then supposedly no activation, whatever. Yeah.
And you need the technician license to do the DDI.
Yeah, to do DDI you have to do it. That's the only real
I
advantage.
think my hatred of DRE might push me towards that.
Yep, I get a huge discount because they say $8.99, so I get like a $500 discount. So
I will be in touch.
I get a discount off of the $8.99 as a reseller. I sell huge amounts of RStudios. I've probably sold, because I use it in my distance learning kit, I sell, I don't know, 100 a year.
How much does it cost to become a reseller?
I don't think it costs anything.
So basically you just have to buy one copy and say I want to be a reseller?
Maybe.
Pretty much?
I don't know. I get a discount because of my quantity, but I don't know if you'll immediately get...
Well, because you sell, right? The minute you start selling, you probably get a discount.
Yeah, right, I do. Because I get a bigger discount on some other stuff that I sell too, but I don't know. I don't go back and look. You know what?
Just asking, I was thinking about what...
Yeah, no, you might be able to...
I was just trying to think, is there any benefit to being a reseller?
Yeah, maybe. If you're going to only buy one copy for yourself, it might... I mean, I'm not making any... I make, $25, $30. I don't really care from that perspective. I make far more teaching and doing recoveries and forensics, so...
It's still income. I mean, you figure you sell to 10 people, that's $25 a person, right?
You know where it's going to be a real pain in the butt is taxes. Everybody's starting to go after being able to charge taxes, and it may actually drive me out of reselling.
Okay.
Because...
At least I'm learning this.
Well, so...
God. I might have to get active to help with that one.
Still alive?
Yeah, he's still alive, but I don't know if he's doing all that well yet. I don't know. I mean, yeah. But one of the candidates is Justin Trudeau, the Liberal. He's the son of a very popular prime minister.
Yeah.
And I remember meeting Justin when he was a little kid. I was a bike messenger in Montreal, even in the winter for a few years, and I took stuff to Trudeau's law firm all the time. I got him in the elevator with him once, and two of the boys, and he was just so friendly and polite. And then about 2 weeks later, I was waiting for the elevator with Justin. He was like 12 years old, or whatever. He was pretty little. And, you know, I'm dressed like a biker, right? You know, obviously I'm a bike messenger. I'll just never forget it. The elevator door opens and he looks at me and he says, "After you, sir." And I'm like a bike messenger, you know, and his dad's like ex-prime minister of the country. I thought, there's a kid who's brought up right, you know? I was really impressed with that. Really impressed with that.
Except he meant it as sarcasm.
What's that?
He-
No, I don't think so. I don't think he was really old enough to really be like
Okay.
meaning his sarcasm. No, he was just a polite kid. Really polite kid who didn't probably have to grow up to be that way, but that's okay.
All right.
Not all of us, but I guess it's
So,
fine.
let me give you an example of what happens in the file system and what an MFT looks like, so that you understand what we're looking for and how to deal with it. Now, I'm giving you a little sample of everything, kind of. I know I'm feeding you a lot of information. And this is so that, and it's also recorded for that very reason, in case you can't remember everything. That's why I started doing it. Huh?
You're going to start copying Wednesdays tomorrow? Like today's tomorrow on the USB? Move it to our drives?
Every day I give you the day before. Tomorrow you can have today. How's that?
Awesome.
Okay.
We have
And-
to today?
Yes, it's on the old class.
I already have it.
Hey. So anyway, and that's why I record it, because whatever class have you ever been in, somebody actually goes through all the effort of recording the class and giving it to you for free in part of the class. I mean, nobody does that. Right. Sands and everybody else, they charge another $3,000 for it.
What?
And a good review.
Yeah, they charge $3,000 for another copy of the class.
Are they worried people are going to start running it?
No, they make money. I don't understand your question. I include it, and I do cover so much information that I could probably split up in 6 classes, but I do it because I'm giving you so much that I want you to come to work on Monday for me, and I don't want to have to tell you anything.
Right.
So you can go home and watch it again over the weekend before you come into work Monday.
We'll watch Wednesday afternoon again, dummy.
So you can
All right.
go to Australia and have it.
Okay, so here's the story. You have a file on your hard drive, and as you can see, I made one that's a long file name. A really long file name. Long. Everybody good with this, right? Let me show you what it really looks like in your file system. I'm doing this live. I'm doing this. X-Ways Forensics and WinHex are the same product. One can write, one can't. So I'm using WinHex right now, which is exactly the same as X-Ways Forensics. Actually, I'm using the same layout and the whole thing. So you can see it tells you all kinds of stuff. Clusters, layout, the whole thing. I went on my hard drive and I found long. When you do that, you come up here, you can right click on long, and you can say navigation, and these are your choices. And one of the things that you can go to is go to file record. The file record is the MFT entry. It really should say go to MFT entry. That's what it should say, but that's the file record for this file. And so I'm going to run to the MFT entry. So here's the MFT entry, and we're here. Because the original file, if I just clicked on it, here's iOS, here's the actual detail, and then we're looking at the file entry. Okay? Everybody good with this idea? Okay? So at the beginning of this record, it says file, that's the delimiter, and then depending on what version that you formatted your drive with, there's actually a version number here. If it was formatted with Windows 2000, this would be an asterisk. So this was formatted with XP, and that's why it's 0. 0 is XP. It's not that it's 0, it's that it's this. That's what it is. Okay? It's in hex. Everybody good? Everybody happy? Yes, thrilling. So there's the file record. Inside of all this stuff that's color-coded is all the stuff that has to do with here's your date, here's your time, here's other stuff, and then here comes after you're done with this, then comes the file name. So the color coding inside the system is broken up according to segments inside the MFT entry. Now I'm going to show you some other stuff with that in a minute in another tool. But here's the thing. So all of this part right here, as you scroll down, here's the short file name, and then there's the long file name, right? It takes up 2 sectors. So at the spot right here, you'll see that there's a break right here. See it? That's the end of one sector. This is the beginning of the next sector. So these two run in here for you to have a long file name. That's why there's 2 sectors. It's to store the attributes that are past the single sector, because a single sector wouldn't be enough. So it's 1024, but the attributes are equal to about 1.5 of you have a total amount of space available to you of about 931 bytes in order to store names and content. That's really what it is, after attributes. So all this other stuff up here is dates and times and layout. But there's one particular item right here, and this is called the sequence number. So there's a sequence number for an array, okay? That's the sequence number. Every time you change, modify, add, delete, that number increments or decrements. So a sequence number will say, oh, I got deleted, -1. I got added, changed, modified, oh, add 1. So it'd go to 9, or then we'll go down to, and it'll do it in hex. So it'll be, when we get to 10, it'll be A. Everybody understand? So this is what the file system does when you modify or change a file. Now, if you look, this next section, so this is a sequence number. If you look at the section where the name starts, you see the name? The name is very, very long. And when you get to the bottom, did you notice right here at the bottom of the sector, long is spelled wrong? If you look at how I spelled long, you'll see I did not spell it wrong. Long is spelled right, it is not wrong. Okay? Everybody understand what I mean? So, here's how this works. A file gets written. While it is being written, the sequence number gets updated. So the sequence number says, I am writing a file. When the file is complete, there's 2 final functions that happen. If I am renaming a file or editing a file, like let's say I open Word and I'm working on a file, it actually gets replaced with the changed file. You guys know this stuff, right? So it makes a file, then it deletes the original file as it replaces the file with the new stuff. And that becomes the same entry, the MFT entry. So then it will delete the file and make a change to what's called a fix-up byte. So long, at the end of the first, which would be the middle of the 2 sectors, the middle of the record, because they're 2 sectors, right? There's a fix-up byte right here. This fix-up byte had the O in it. It did originally write the O in there. But it replaces that at the end of the entry with the fix-up byte that belongs there. So you see that there's an 08, and if you scroll back up, you'll see that there is a 08 in the sequence number. So right here is the sequence number, and there's 08. So these 2 bytes are equal to these 2 bytes. See that? So those are equal to each other if the transaction completed. So when it's done writing the file, then it will delete the other file or whatever it needs to do to get rid of the other content, because you had one, you changed one, then you tracked it, and when it was done writing the new file and the data with it, it takes the sequence number and updates it. Now, the characters that were there, O, right next to the sequence number is what's called an array. And next to that, the 2 bytes that were there, that were in this position, are next to the sequence number. So, if you scroll back up, and you look at the you look at the 08. If you look next to the 08, these were the 2 bytes that were there. And look what the 2 bytes are equal to. The letter O. That's the missing letter that belonged in the long file name. Those are called fix-up bytes. So, if the transaction did not complete, and it started writing this, it will not finish. Let's say the system crashed. It did not update the fix-up bytes at the bottom of this sector. When ScanDisk starts to run, ScanDisk compares 08 to whatever the number is that's down there in the bottom. If they match, it's good. If they do not match, it trashes it, throws it away, adds it to the log file, deletes the file. Gone. Never, never land. Does not fix it, does not give you an option to fix it, does not do anything. It removes it, trashes it, throws it away. It's gone. It will no longer exist in the MFT entries. The MFT entry will then be noted as bad, and it will remove it. Everybody understand what I mean? That's what ScanDisk does. Now on Windows 7, 8, 10, it does this live. If you actually go in with a hex editor on a live system and you go to the bottom and you modify it, it will immediately delete the file from the system. It takes 15 seconds or so, but it'll be gone. When you go back into Explorer and refresh it, it will disappear. So it is actually repairing this on the fly. Whereas on Windows XP, it will only get rid of the file when you reboot. Now, if you modify it, then you go into Explorer and you modify the file, it actually updates it and never checks to see if it was okay or not. It just updates it automatically. And then it would not delete the file. So it only messes with the file that you leave behind that you didn't modify. Okay? But that's what you're looking at when you're looking at MFT entries. This is the thing that you're finding. File. And then you're sorting this, and then you're going to spit this out. And here's another one, and you can tell what the next one is. Now, this one, just so you know, this one is embedded in the MFT entry. The file was smaller than the content, so what we have here is basically just content that's stored in, it's resident in the entry. So whatever the content was a list that existed there, and it was smaller than 931 bytes. And so it exists in the item. It does not exist anywhere else in the disk, even though you will be able to go and open it as a text file. Does that make sense? That's a resident entry. Okay? Everybody good? That's the kind of thing that's happening, and you're backing out. And this is really just an introduction so you at least just get an idea. If you really want to go look at something and you want to figure something out, you can tell how you can walk through the system and you can kind of get a pretty good view of what the system is doing. And then when you're actually doing a case or working on something, you can kind of piecemeal this together. But this stuff becomes important. And this becomes really important in RAID arrays too, because you can search for MFT entries and you can find out where they're dispersed across drives. So you can start looking at them, and I'll start showing you that here shortly. Now, we're gonna do a lab with NTFS so you understand what some of the problems are, and this is what's happening when you take a drive and you mount it in your system, and it says, "I do not know what it is." Now your problem is, how do I parse out the stuff that I want without carving? If I carve, I lose a lot of data. I would lose the text file. I would lose the content that was embedded. I would lose a bunch of files that carving doesn't know. Like if I have a custom file type, it doesn't know that. I lose that. You guys understand this, right? Carving has a header and a footer. So here's an example of what I'm... So on your desktop, there's a tool called FTK Imager. It's free. And it does a number of different things. It can see file systems. It can do things. We are going to look at an image. So what I want to show you, on your C drive, there is a folder called Data Recovery Images. I'm going to walk you through this. We are going to open a image file, and we're going to look at something. So we're going to... let me find something. What's that?
Groping FTK.
Yeah, hang on one second and I'll tell you. Go into, on your laptop, I just need to verify you have one thing. Under Data Recovery Software, the folder that you've been copying, the 2 gig one, go under that and go down to Student CDs and tell me, do you have one called Kingston Data Traveler Media IMG? Do you have that?